The feature race on Saturday at Del Mar is the Grade 2 Pat O'Brien Stakes. It's race number 10, and it's a field of 8 entered the 7-furlong sprint. And I would like to sit here and tell you that this is a nationally significant race with utmost relevance, but I can't do it in good conscience. And that's because this is a good, solid field, but in terms of overall national importance, it's probably not nearly as important as the Grade 1 Forgo on Saturday at Saratoga, or even the Grade 2 Amsterdam for 3-year-olds on Saturday at Saratoga. What we do have is a good field of 8, and the Pat O'Brien Stakes, it's generally, historically speaking, just a notch below the Grade 1 Bing Crosby, a 6-furlong race run earlier in the meet. The Pat O'Brien typically draws a field that is not quite the quality of the Bing Crosby. The Pat O'Brien is a Breeders' Cup win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. And once again, with regards to the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, I would be very surprised if the Pat O'Brien had any significance on that race at all. And the reason I say that is because the morning line favorite Flagstaff is not pointing to the Dirt Mile. He would like to end up in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. And 2 other key contenders in the Pat O'Brien that we'll talk about in just a minute include Giant Expectations and Law Abiding Citizen. Neither one of those horses have Breeders' Cup in their fall campaign plans. So that's what the Pat O'Brien is not. It's not nationally relevant this year. But here's what it is: a good, solid race with a good, solid field. And let's go ahead and take a look at the field. A field of 8 entered this 7-furlong sprint. It's race number 10 on Saturday at Del Mar, and we're probably going to be left with the field of 7 by the time all is said and done, because number 6, Vertical Threat, is expected to scratch and run September 5th at Churchill Downs in the Pat Day Mile, a 1-turn mile for 3-year-olds. So that would be a key defection from the Pat O'Brien, and I'll explain why in just a minute. But what we're left with is a field of at least 7, possibly 8 if Vertical Threat stays in. And the favorite on the morning line will be number 4, Flagstaff, making his first start in nearly 3 months. A couple other key contenders in this race include Giant Expectations, who won this race in 2017, finished second in the race last year, and number 1, Law Abiding Citizen, an excellent third last time out of the Bing Crosby. All right, that's the field. The morning line favorite at 5-2 on John Lee's morning line is number 4, Flagstaff. And let's talk a little bit about the field, including the most important horse in the race, in my opinion, and that happens to be number 1, Law Abiding Citizen. Now, why is he the most important horse in the race? Because I expect that he's going to bust out of there from the rail, set the pace, and take this field as far as he can. And if he reproduces his most recent start, that was a 3rd place finish in the Bing Crosby, watch out for Law Abiding Citizen. Let's roll the tape on his most recent start. Law Abiding Citizen, down on the inside, dueling with Wildman Jack. That's Law Abiding Citizen in the orange silks. And this is after going 21.58, 44.73. Collusion Illusion comes up the rail, and Lexitonian comes on the outside. But Law Abiding Citizen, after brutal early fractions, he hung tough through the deep stretch. He held off Wildman Jack and won the race for 3rd. He held off his pace rival, Wildman Jack. Both Collusion Illusion and Lexitonian, the 1-2 finishers, rallied from the back of the pack. Law Abiding Citizen, who, as I said, 21.58, 44.73 for the half, he ran super in defeat. He wasn't close at the wire. He lost by a length and a quarter, but it was an outstanding front-running effort by Law Abiding Citizen. And by the way, the 2 horses that he dueled with early, Law Abiding Citizen, they finished last and next to last in the Bing Crosby. So Law Abiding Citizen, he won the battle, but he lost the war, and he ran super in defeat. Now, if Veiled Threat does in fact scratch from the Pat O'Brien, it seems to me that Law Abiding Citizen could be, I don't know if loose on the lead would be the right term, but he should make the lead, and he should be going a whole lot slower than he did in the Bing Crosby. And I think the Law Abiding Citizen is really the key to this race. He's the key because he will determine how fast this race unfolds. All right, let's talk about the old man in the field. There's actually 2 of them, a couple of 7-year-olds, number 7, Giant Expectations, and Blame It on the Law, also age 7. Going through the history books of the Pat O'Brien, In the last 30 years, and this race has been run 35 years, but in the last 30 years, there have been 19 horses aged 7 or older who have tried to win the Pat O'Brien, who have run in the Pat O'Brien. How about an 0 for 19 record with 7-year-olds and up? That doesn't mean that Giant Expectations cannot win this race. In fact, we know he's good enough, or at least he once was good enough, and he was good enough last year to finish second. Let's go ahead and take a look at last year's Pat O'Brien and Giant Expectations on the far outside, and that's Catalina Cruiser, the 1-2 favorite to his inside. Catalina Cruiser was supposed to dominate this race, but that's Giant Expectations giving the odds-on favorite, Catalina Cruiser, all he can handle. Catalina Cruiser would end up winning the race by a head, but I dare say Giant Expectations ran super in defeat. He typically does run super in the Pat O'Brien. In fact, if we go back 3 years to 2017, let's go ahead and take a look at the young Giant Expectations with that fluorescent green cap on the outside, rallying outside the gray calculator. And this is Giant Expectations early in his career with a breakout performance in the Pat O'Brien. He won this race going away. This was a powerful win 3 summers ago. So where has Giant Expectations been since last fall? Well, he ran in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile at Santa Anita, and soon after that race, I believe it happened during training, he ended up with a cracked splint bone. And so he went to the sidelines. Now, as most everyone knows, a split injury is not severe. It's not a career ender, but it does put a horse on the sidelines for some amount of time. That's why we haven't seen Giant Expectations since last fall, but he is training very well for his comeback. Trainer Pete Yurden is convinced that Giant Expectations is as good now as he ever has been. And Yurden calls Giant Expectations a lightly raced 7-year-old, and I won't disagree with him. He started only 23 times. He finished first in this race in 2017, second in this race last year, training well, runs well fresh, likes the racetrack. Giant Expectations, expected to be second choice on the morning line, is live first star back under Umberto Rispoli, who is giving Flavian Pratt all he can handle in the race for leading jockey at the Del Mar Summer Meet. Giant Expectations trying to become the first 7-year-old to win the Pat O'Brien in its 35-year history, and we'll see if he can do it. But he can only do it if he can knock off the morning line favorite, and that is number 4, Flagstaff. Flagstaff is trained by John Sadler. Sadler won the Pat O'Brien last year and the year before with Catalina Cruiser, a 6-horse field and a 4-horse field. So at least we have a little bit larger field this year for the Pat O'Brien. At least 7, possibly 8 will be running. And Flagstaff is the 5-2 favorite on the morning line. We haven't seen him since early June. Freshened by design, Sadler wanted to run him once here, once more between now and the Breeders' Cup, hoping to get into the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Now, is Flagstaff good enough to win a Grade 2 7-furlong race? Well, you better believe he is. Let's go back and look at the San Carlos in early March, a Grade 2 at 7 furlongs, and this is Flagstaff when he is at his best. On the outside, under Victor Espinoza, rallying wide from just off the pace and rolling home to win convincingly. This race was at Santa Anita, a good, solid Grade 2 victory at 7 furlongs. Roadster coming along to complete the exacta in the San Carlos. What about Del Mar for Flagstaff? Well, he started here 4 times. He has a win, a second, and a third. He has trained exceptionally well. This is the race to which he has been pointed all summer long, the Pat O'Brien. And Flagstaff, he's the morning line favorite at 5-2. I think he's the horse to beat. I think bettors are going to agree. He has a versatile running style. He can be forwardly placed. He can rally from behind. He's drawn comfortably right in the middle of the field. And Sadler, talking to him on Thursday morning, he was ecstatic about his August 15th gate work, 6-furlong gate work in 1:11.2. So the point is this: Flagstaff is ready to roll. He should fire, and if he does, he should win. Let's talk about the entire field briefly. Law-abiding Citizen on the inside. He's the horse to catch. Number 2, PR Radio Star, trying to become the first horse this summer to win 3 races. That is not easy to do in a typical 7-week summer meet at Del Mar. But this year, the meet is 8 weeks long. And so PR Radio Star has been able to spread out his wins. He won a 2 other than 2 back, a starter allowance last time. They're taking a shot with the horse that they claimed for 25, 3 starts back. PR Radio Star is good. He will be running late. Number 3, Manhattan Up, trained by underrated trainer Phil Oviedo. And Manhattan Up has been gelded since his most recent start. Hasn't started since March. He's going to be coming from out of the clouds. If he's a better horse since he was gelded, maybe Manhattan Up has a chance to at least outrun his price. Number 4 is Flagstaff. I think he's the horse to beat. Number 5, CZ Rocket, comes in with buyer speed figures 96 and 95, earned at Churchill Downs and Keeneland. And CZ Rocket, returning to California with the highest numbers in the field. Is he good enough? Well, he's razor sharp right now. Claimed 4 starts back for 50, 3 for 3 for trainer Peter Miller. I didn't pick him in the top 3, and it might be a mistake. CZ Rocket is fast. He's ridden by Pratt. Pratt and Miller have been on fire together. Number 6, Vertical Threat. We expect he's going to scratch giant expectations and then blame it on the law on the far outside. Probably one of the longest shots in the field. It's a long-winded way of saying the 2020 Pat O'Brien Stakes goes through the morning line favorite Flagstaff. Watch out for Manhattan Up. He has a chance to maybe outrun his price, and number 1 law-abiding citizen will try to steal it. But when all is said and done, it's Flagstaff in the Pat O'Brien Saturday at Del Mar.